Morning.
Good morning.
Today's topic is all about values, which we've done a few times, but we recognise that sometimes it's really hard to see what you value as a positive in your life, and so it may actually be easier, and partially because of the way that the brain works, is to look at what you really don't want in life and then look at the opposite of that to help you find your values. But then there's also this thing about whether you're choosing them consciously or unconsciously based on past programming. And that's why we have a values module early in our course, but we also recommend to our participants that they redo that module at the end of the course, because once we become more aware and clear up our programming, then our values tend to change, or we tend to see that the values that we were choosing may not have been values that were really true to ourselves.
Yes. So an example for me when I first came across this concept of values, it's so brilliant. It really helped me because I was just starting to ponder this concept of homeschooling my children, knowing I'd have to go out and tell people this because people were all asking me, oh, when are your kids going to start school? And I started to, I saw this in a homeschool magazine, and it was saying to me that I should think about what are my top values with my kids. And of course, one of my top values was to be connected with them and to have a really great relationship with them, to be there for them, to be part of their learning journey. And that was all really good, because when I went to see people, I could actually say that these are my values. And the thing with that is you can't really get into a power struggle with another person, which sometimes I felt like that was happening because I felt like I was being judged. And so this gave me a way of saying, look, this is my value. And of course, other people are very free and welcome to have other values, and we can all just live in harmony, going towards what's really important and valuable to us. But even though I chose connection and I chose being like learning alongside them and being with them every day, it didn't mean that I didn't have a lot of resistance to those values come up. I had to keep revisiting them. And back then, I didn't have an amazing course like Joe and I have created where somebody would be with me every week to tap on my resistance, because I didn't see anything like that around. And that's why we've created the course that we have, because there was so much resistance, because my upbringing had been not too much about relaxation. It had been all about doing and all about being really busy and all about, having 1,000 things to do each day and activities and keeping everything tidy and clean and me going off to school and having a really quite rigid schedule for most of my life. I found it really, really difficult there was so much resistance to doing the things with my kids that I really valued, even though consciously I wanted to do that. I wish I'd had a way to shift the resistance. What about you, John?
Well, so interesting to look back, because I would have said that I highly valued connection with my kids and honesty, but what I valued mostly was a calm, peaceful household, which meant, relatively quiet. But the downside of that is loads of suppressed feelings, myself. So because I want a quiet home, I suppress my feelings, but I also insist, even without words, that my children do the same. And I'm doing things like, if they begin to get loud or expressive or show anger, or I'm sending them to their room to be on their own with their really big feelings that a child needs help to get through. So this thing, it was so unconscious for me, so driven to have the opposite of loudness and craziness and drama.
Yeah, which is, I was going to say, that's coming out of your own childhood. This vow to be calm, you know, to not have what was in my own childhood.
Yes, but it's so unhealthy. It may look healthy on the outside, and I do recall many mums saying to me, I've never seen you yell at your children or, you know, get upset with them like out when we're at sport or when we're at events or whatever. And I'm smiling like, yeah, I'm the perfect mother, which is such a load of rubbish because there's so much suppressed emotion, not just me, but everybody in the home, because that's what I insisted upon.
Yeah, and that's the way that you survived your childhood. So you're thinking that's, you know, it's kind of a knee-jerk reaction though, isn't it? Like you're getting triggered and that's the knee-jerk reaction. And I know this is what I, every week when the parents come to our calls, I ask them, like, what were the triggers this week? And they know now to tell me about what's been triggering you, because that is where the resistance is between what you're wanting to, like a lot of the parents that are on our calls have come to us through gentle parenting groups, through peaceful parenting groups, certainly are all wanting to be conscious, peaceful, gentle parents, doing a lot of attachment style parenting. And this is what they value. This is what they really value. But coming from homes where that was not just not done, like most of us grew up in similar kinds of childhoods. If you're around the same age, it's just and we think that is my home different? Like we do when we really go there and look at it, find that we all had similar kinds of experiences. Not perhaps exactly the same. But, you know, everyone got shamed, everyone got threatened, everyone got some form of, even if it was more, you know, I'm just ignoring you today or something like that, which was really hurtful for ourselves as children. Everyone, you know, maybe heard arguments. Things happened in our own childhoods where, and our lives were a certain kind of way that we've often vowed against. But then when we try and recreate something consciously, that all that subconscious stuff is still there, and we find ourselves doing things we don't want to do. And I often found myself, you know, yelling, or you know, I was the opposite to Joe. I would often explode, or because I had this expectation of myself that I could live by these higher values that I wanted to live by. So even that was kind of challenging, because
turmoil inside of us.
Yeah, and not having a way to work with that resistance. So that's why I do what I do now, because I know that if I'd had a way that someone could work with me on that resistance each week, and I could start letting go of the programs I've developed in my own early years, then I would be able to change it and work with myself a lot easier than I could by just, like, willpower doesn't work, because the work that I do with people is deep subconscious work. It's not about like changing things through the conscious mind. It's through the subconscious, which is the millions of pieces of information that really run the show.
Yeah. That happen 0.0009 of a second. They kick in.
Yeah.
And just back to my story. So now what I can do when I've worked on all of those things, so I can be in the presence of people who are in deep sadness, or who are very angry, or like who are very expressive of their emotions. Thank you for helping me with that.
Anytime.
And remain calm and not expect them to behave any differently.
Yeah. And it's huge. It's huge. So we are. So the exercise that we'll be sending out in our email this week, and the modules for values is actually in this group. You can come and do a do it with our course participants and talk about it there. It really goes deep into how you're doing your values now. Like, you're going to work out that even if you think you're valuing connection, when you do the values module, it'll ask you, like, how much time really are you spending on connection? The things around you. There's all sorts of different questions
what
about
does life really look like for you now? And then when you recognize what you're actually doing in your life and compare that to the values that you thought were important to you, you may see some mismatches there.
Yes. And that's why, you know, it's important to be able to know how to shift the resistance to that. So I was going somewhere, but the brain is good at seeing what it doesn't want. So you can work with that. You can kind of use this as a hack. You can say, like, what's the worst thing that I could possibly imagine happening? And I know there's a lot of like positive psychology out there and positive things out there that say don't go towards what you don't want, but we actually don't do that in the Fast EFT calls. I often encourage people to go towards what they don't want, because that's just resistance, and that brings up, we can really tap on anything around that, and by looking at what you don't want, then you can see really clearly what you do want, and that is a great gift. So, and also to not be afraid of really voicing your greatest fears. I often ask that question in the call: what's your greatest fear here? And we go towards that because we want to shift any resistance that we have to anything like that. And by shifting the resistance to the greatest fears, it makes it easy to go towards the things that we don't want, because it's the fear and the shame and all the emotional stuff that we're holding on to that will come up when our children, you know, challenge us. And today they're not being the easiest children to be a gentle parent around, and all of a sudden we're thrown back into, you know, how we operated in our own childhood to keep ourselves safe, and instead of living by the values that we want to live by.
Yeah, and those programs that
happens.
were extremely successful as a child, but may not be serving us now as an adult. And if you don't have a safe place where you can go and share your shame and fear and guilt and be held in a supportive, non-judgmental space, then we can provide that for you.
Yeah, and our course is still available to anyone who'd like to start. We're starting up this week, and in the next couple of weeks we can still take people in, start doing our calls. We've put some great testimonials and things up this week where some beautiful mums. Casey came and spoke about
that one in particular, about like the being fearful, and as it was for me when I first joined a course to share my stuff, and I joined one in the US because I was sure that I wouldn't physically run into anyone then. Because to get on and share your stuff with other people is very, very, very courageous.
Yeah, it really is. And as they find out though that it's also really awesome, because you realise you're not alone. You're not alone in feeling the ways that you feel, and that everybody's had their stuff, and everybody on those calls is there to work on their own stuff. And so often it's really beautiful. Sometimes there's kind of a theme in the calls, because things just tend to like be quite synchronistic and all work out. Yeah.
Getting a bit teary because I recently spoke to one of my children, because Ilka and I don't do this work because we were amazing parents, you know, brilliant parents, the perfect parents. That
definitely not every day.
Us. And I recently chatted with one of my kids, and I was talking about the work that we do, and I teared up and I couldn't speak for like a few seconds, and then I said, part of me feels a little bit hypocritical in doing the work that we do, because so many things that we speak about, I didn't get right, or I didn't do, I wasn't there for them to share their emotions with me. And she said, it's okay, Mum, like, you're good at it because you were so, like, bad at it, you know. And well, you know, what we sometimes it's what we teach is what we most need to learn ourselves, and that's the case for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, me too. Like I had many, and Jo did have many good times as well. Like she did have times where she was, you know, I don't. There really is no. We're all just doing the best we can. It's the thing. We're doing what our subconscious tells us to do. Like we really have just been programmed from our own childhood. So we pass on the good out of our own childhood. We try and think up what's the best way. But the best part about coming to the calls and is this subconscious work, because it's even Jo's subconscious there, you know, saying to us, oh, like we didn't be a good mum, when really it was true maybe 10% of the time or 20% of the time. You can't know. Like it's just how it worked out. There is no right or wrong, good or bad. We were all doing what we knew how to do. So and our children will do the same. But the beautiful thing about moving forward with these kinds of tools is that your children get to see you becoming more self-empowered and more emotionally regulated. And I got sent another video this week from a mum whose little boy was tapping on the couch. Now, he was labelled autistic early in his life, or given that, you know, diagnosis or whatever you call it. But he's now starting to, you know, because his mum's been doing her work, he is a totally changed child. Like, I wish I had videos from the beginning of her starting to do the work and now. And the other day she sent me a video where he's sitting up with his dad and he's just like doing this on his face.
So awesome.
Yeah, it's just so cool, so cool. So that's a really big difference, that we're just giving ourselves more availability to change things, like change the resistance, to shift the resistance, to not be in our subconscious programming. Because until we learn how to shift out of that, everybody lives from it. Some people are conscious of living from it, and some people aren't. But if you're here, then you're definitely conscious of it. And we do joke on the calls too that it's not the easiest thing to be aware of it. You know, to constantly be aware of your own programming and what you're doing and all of that. Sometimes you think, oh, it'd just be easier to go, look, the old days, they had it right. Just keep doing it the way they did it and everything will be okay. But unfortunately, I don't believe that. I think that we can change and make it a lot better and do life calmer, more gently, more peacefully, more harmoniously, and have a greater awareness, all those things.
Yeah, and a big thing, and this is the path that I've watched in many, and I'm watching in some young people in my life at the moment. This is what the path I went down. I initially sought knowledge, so books, videos, delved into I'm a researcher. I love to let's read another book, watch another video, get some more logic, some more stuff I can analyse. But there's a big gap then, and then frustration kicked in for me. Like, how come I know all this stuff, but still I'm behaving the same way in my life? And that is because I wasn't working on my subconscious programming.
Yeah, and it takes actually doing the work. It's actually showing up, doing your tapping, changing the stuff that's in your subconscious, releasing the emotions around things, which means looking at it, hearing the sounds of, like Jo's worked on all of the arguing and the things that happened in childhood, where the things you don't want to hear, the things you didn't want to see, all of that going, like we take you right deep into that. so that you can let it go. And when you let it go, you everything in life then it does become easy to live, much easier to live from these values that we want to live by. So yeah, that's very cool.
It is very cool.
Yeah. So if you'd like to join our beautiful TAP commune and the people doing our course and come along to the course calls, then send us a PM. We can do a discovery call with you, and yeah, join us.
Yeah.
I love to empower you
Yeah.
to be the parent that you want to be.
Yeah, change your life,
Yes.
just like we did.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Awesome. Thanks
Awesome.
for being with us.
Okay, thanks.
We'll see you
Thanks,
again
Casey,
next
Mum.
Wednesday.
Good to see you. Okay,
Bye.
bye.